Welcome back, my math party people. Anderson here, your math coach, and in the previous video, we just got done turning fractions into percents. So now that we're done with simplifying fractions, converting improper to mixed, going ahead and looking at turning them into decimals and percents, which you can find in the most previous video here if you're on YouTube. But if you're in the course now, what we're going over here now is adding and subtracting fractions. Then up next after this, multiplying and then dividing them. Because one of the biggest issues that I definitely noticed as a teacher is that the mechanics, the rules that we have to follow when dealing with fractions, sometimes we get a little confused and that leads to anxiety, which leads to us just not even trying to deal with fractions if we see them on the test. So remember, what you want to do is you want confidence, right? We want confidence, but the question is, how do we get there? Well, first it's by learning the mechanics the right way, then it's practicing those mechanics, and then talking about what you're doing to make sure that you're confident about what you see. Without doing that, it's going to take a lot longer. I'm not saying it's impossible to do it without it, but what I am saying is it'll be a lot faster and a much more pleasurable process, honestly, if you're looking at every situation and describing and talking about what you're doing. So, with that said, allow me to walk you through this right over here. And if you haven't had a chance to watch a previous video, please do. Link's right up there if you're on YouTube, or if you're in the course, you know how to scroll up and down. So here we go, let's get to it. We're adding and subtracting fractions, we're evaluating each expression. I'm going to take you through maybe about 5 to 10 problems, and then I'll let you take care of the rest. So, 3 over 10 plus 1 over 5. How do we take care of this? Well, remember, to take care of adding and subtracting fractions, there's one main rule you need to know about, and it's this. You need to have the same denominator, okay? To add and subtract fractions, for adding and subtracting fractions, we need the same denominator. Okay, that's the only rule really. Denominator, right over here. All right, and I wrote it in all caps because I'm angry saying it, okay? We need the same denominator if we expect to be successful here. So let's go ahead and take care of business. Do we have the same denominator? Absolutely not. We have 10 and we have 5. And so we need the same denominator. So this is what's called the least common denominator, okay? And to get the least common denominator, really what you're doing is the same thing as the least common multiple, but with the denominators. Again, least common denominator is the same as least common multiple with denominators. So ask yourself, 10 and 5, right over there, 10 and 5. What number can they both multiply into? Well, I'm looking at 5 and I know that 5 times 2 gives me 10. So what that tells me is, hey, I actually don't even need to change both of the fractions. I don't need to change this one right over here. That's all I got to change. Because guess what, my party people? If I go ahead and multiply the bottom right here by 2, well, 5 times 2 is 10. But remember this. Whatever you multiply or divide in a fraction, if you do it on the bottom, you got to do it to the top. If you do it to the top, you got to do it to the bottom. Remember, from simplifying fractions from that video previously, what we did there was we learned that, hey, you can have two different fractions that look different, but they mean the same thing. For example, 1 over 2 is half. But isn't that the same as 3 over 6? Yeah, 3 over 6 is also half. So we're not changing the value here. We're just changing the way it looks by doing the same thing to the top and the bottom. It's kind of like a pizza box. Okay, so here, 1 times 2, that's going to give me 2. 5 times 2, that's going to give me 10. So what ends up happening here is this problem turns into 3 over 10 plus 2 over 10, just like that. And so now we can go ahead and add these fractions together. And so 3 over 10 plus 2 over 10, that's going to give me right over here. That's going to give me 5. Remember, add the numerators. Add the numerators. So let me just highlight these. Add the numerators, and then keep the denominator the same. Because you're saying, hey, if I have 3 out of 10 pieces of a puzzle, and I add on 2 of those pieces of the puzzle, well, now I got 5 of the pieces out of the 10. I got 5 out of 10 pieces. And so here, can we stop right now? No, because typically on the test, you're going to have to simplify your fractions. Because if 5 out of 10 is the same thing as 10 over 20, or 15 over 30, or 20 over 40, or 50 over 100. They're all the same. And so typically on a test, you can expect to reduce it to the simplest form so that way everybody knows what that number or fraction should be. So how do you simplify again? Brief reminder, remember, you're asking yourself, what number goes into the numerator and denominator that I can divide out or cancel out? And that's going to be 5, because 5 and 10 are both divisible by 5. And so right over here, I can go ahead and take care of business. Right there, 5 divided by 5, that's going to be 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And my party people, this should make sense. This should make sense because think about it like this. 5 is half of 10. 1 is half of 2. These fractions are literally the same thing. 1/2. Let's take care of number 2 now. Let's go ahead and move forward. Number 2. Look, if you're frustrated about raising your score right now, if you feel like you're studying but you're not exactly remembering what you're supposed to, or suffer from test anxiety and blank on word problems a lot, then go ahead and text me directly. Here's my number, 567-698-8867. I'm Coach Anderson. I have a full program that's going to help you succeed. So go ahead and shoot me a text and say, hey coach, I want to learn more about the program. And I'll go ahead and explain how all of it works. That way you can stress less about this test, enlist with the job you want, and possibly get that bonus check too. And so, with that said, go ahead, shoot me a text. Let's learn more about it, and let's get you in the right position to succeed. Let's keep going. So this is another unique example because typically speaking, a lot of people aren't used to adding fractions with a whole number. Not a lot of people are used to that. And honestly, that's okay. That's completely fine. But we need to make sure we take responsibility here and move forward the right way. So 2 plus 2 over 5, how do we handle this? Well, honestly speaking, we have a whole number plus a fraction. If you wanted to call it 2 2/5, yeah, that would work. That would work. It's a whole number plus a fraction. That honestly would work. And then you can convert this to an improper fraction because notice all of these answers. They're all improper fractions. So if you wanted to do that, that could work. But let me go ahead and do it a normal, general way. That way you know what to do the next time you see something like this. So first of all, one thing you need to know. Every whole number is the same as dividing it by 1, right? So if I wrote the number 6, that's the same thing as 6 divided by 1, right? Okay, if I had 2, 2 is the same thing as 2 divided by 1. Correct or incorrect? That's right, it's the same thing. And we're still adding the 2 over 5. And now the goal is, well, again, if I want to add these fractions, I need the same denominator. We have 1 and we have 5. These are our two denominators, 1 and 5. Well, what denominator can I make it? Make it a 5. You know that you can multiply 1 to get 5, right? So this is still a case where we don't have to modify both, and we only have to modify one of the fractions. And the way that we're going to do that is by asking, what do I multiply 1 by to get 5? That's going to be 5. And there we go. Just remember, we want to multiply the top and the bottom by 5, doing the same thing to keep the relationship the same. Because when you do the math here, let me just take care of this here, move you out of the way for a quick moment, and what you're going to have over here, 2 multiplied by 5, that's going to be 10. 1 times 5 is 5. Look at this, 10 divided by 5 is 2. It's the same thing. I'm just changing the way it looks so I can add it with this fraction right over there. And so with that, let's add the 2 over 5, nice and easy. And there we go. 10 over 5 plus 2 over 5, that's going to be 12 over 5. And that's answer B. Now remember earlier how I had, hey, right over here, 2 2/5? You can turn this mixed number into an improper fraction because all of the answers are improper fractions, so it's a wise thing to do that. And so when we do that, what we do is this. You take the whole number and you multiply it by the denominator. 2 times 5 is 10. And once you have that, then you're going to add it to the numerator. So 2 times 5 is 10. 10 plus 2 is 12. 12 over the same denominator, 5. So again, it would have worked just the same. Just the same it would have worked, but now we can see why. Now let's go ahead and go to number 3. And remember, we have easy, medium, and hard here. We're going to go ahead and go through all 3. So let's pay attention to these simpler ones. That way we can translate it to the harder ones. So 23 over 12 minus 2 over 3. Well, in this case, again, just like the other ones, conveniently, we don't have to change both of the fractions. Here we only have to change one. Because I can tell you that 3 can go into 12, and that's going to be a times 4 relationship. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 4 here, turning this into the same 23 over 12 minus 2 times 4 is going to be 8, 3 times 4 is going to be 12. So now that I have this, now I can actually go ahead, subtract these two fractions, and we're good. Remember, adding and subtracting fractions, you need the same denominator. We have that now, and our answer is going to be 15 over 12, right there. Now, I don't see a 15 over 12 anywhere here. I don't see it. So maybe I need to simplify, and you should, because 15 and 12 are both divisible by 3. Again, if you haven't seen my simplifying fractions video, pause right now and go see that. That way you can get acclimated to simplifying fractions whenever you need to. So with that, here we go. We're going to go ahead and divide the top and the bottom by 3, giving us 5 over 4. Booyah, booyah, and we're good. Next up, number 4. We have 11 over 6 minus 3 over 10. This is a perfect example of where we're going to have to do a little bit more work. Because notice, in the earlier problems, I was asking, hey, can this denominator go into that one? Can I just only modify one? In this case, nah, we're going to have to change both. We're going to have to change both, but the question is, how? Here's how. First, you're going to ask yourself, what do 6 and 10 both go into? Well, I know that 10, you can go 20, because times 2. Can 6 go into 20? No. What about 30? Does that work? Yeah. 6 times 5 is 20, so that would work. We can try to make, or 30, excuse me. We can make both denominators 30. That's what we can do. So notice my strategy here. To find the least common denominator, I took the bigger number, and I started finding the multiples of it, and I asked myself, okay, can the other number go into this one? No. How about this one? No. How about this one? Yeah, it can. And that's the fast way to do it. The slower way would be to just list everything out. 6, 12, 18, 24, and then eventually you'll see 30. Eventually you'll see the 30 right there. But again, they can both go into 30. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write them out again. 11 over 6 minus 3 over 10. And I'm going to try to get both of these to be a denominator of 30. I want a denominator of 30 for both. I know my big old head's in the way. Don't worry, I'm not going to let it get in the way too much. But here we go. How do we get the denominator of 30? Well, over here, my party people, 6 times 5, that's going to be 30. And remember, you do the same thing to the top and the bottom. Boom. 11 times 5, that gives me 55. And over here, similarly, how do I get from 10 to 30? Times 3. And so I'll multiply the top and the bottom by 3. And so 3 times 3, that's going to give me 9. So right now I have 55 over 9, or excuse me, 55 over 30 minus 9 over 30, right over here. And so 55 minus 9, what is that going to be? Well, 55 minus 9, that's going to be, well, 46. And so we have 46 over 30. So right over here, with my big old head in the way, we have 46 over 30. Now, are we done? Is it anywhere in here? No, not yet. Not quite. And the reason it's not there is because, well, 46 and 30 are both even numbers. And since they're both even, well, guess what? I can divide them both by 2. If I divide them both by 2 to simplify, 46 divided by 2 is 23. 30 divided by 2 is 15. Booyah. So 23 over 15 would be our answer, and that is A. And if right about now you're asking, well, hey, Anderson, why aren't we turning these into mixed numbers? Well, look at your answer choices. Are the answer choices mixed numbers? No, they're not. So don't worry about it. You're good. You're good. So let's go and take a look here. Do we have any other problems that would fit the bill here for anything we want to try? Nope. Let's go and move over to the harder ones. Let's move on over to these harder ones. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of these mixed numbers now. So I like this one over here. So yeah, let's start with number 31. Let's start with some of these mixed numbers. Hey, before we get to crushing this problem, just wanted to remind you about my ASVAB All-Access Program. So if you have test anxiety, if you blank out on word problems, if you're frustrated and can't keep a solid study schedule, then this program is there to support you. Long story short, you're going to be able to text me whenever you need help. You get all of the classes and the recording so you can work around your schedule whenever you need to. On top of that, you're going to get access to over 2,000 practice problems that let you learn from every mistake by watching video solutions to those math questions. Not like a textbook where you have to figure it out on your own. On top of that, there are way more features like practice tests, study guides, flashcard sets, all that good stuff. So go ahead, either text me or check out the link either somewhere here in this video or in the description. That way you can keep raising your score and get the job you want, because that's what you're here for at the end of the day. Again, I'm Coach Anderson. Check out the All-Access program and sign up, and then keep going watching this video so you can keep crushing it. I'll see you there. So we have 7 1/6 minus 2 1/4. How do we handle that, right? That seems insane. Well, here's the thing. The first thing that you're gonna do is, well, if you're subtracting mixed numbers, see first if you don't have to convert anything. What I'm asking is, let's start off with the same denominator. Let's get the same denominator. Let's see what happens. Because I'm not sure if I need to convert this to an improper fraction yet. I'm not sure. Let's go ahead and see what we got. So first things first, I'm going to ask myself, what's the common denominator between 6 and 4? What can they both go into? What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bigger number, list out those multiples, and keep asking if this number can go into the multiples. Because 6 and 4, they're not the same number. 4 can't go into 6. But the next one from 6 is going to be 12. Can 4 go into 12? It can. It can. And so because it can, 12 is going to be it. 12 is the common denominator because we have 4, 8, 12. There it is. That is your least common denominator. Could you use 24 or 36 or 48? Yeah, but it wouldn't be the smallest. We want to be able to use the smallest. That way we can go ahead and keep things in simplest terms nice and easy already. So we have 12 being the common denominator. So we have our 7 1/6 minus 2 1/4. So in order to get these to the same denominator, I'm going to ask myself, well, hey, what do I multiply 6 by to get to 12? That's 2. And then what do I multiply the top by? Same thing too. Multiply the 2 on top and bottom. So this will turn into 7 and 2 over 12. Now over here, what I notice is that we have 2 1/4. How do I get 1/4 to get to 12? Well, 4 times 3 is 12. 1, 2, 3 times 3. So what I'll do is I'll multiply the top and the bottom by 3. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. And so here we are, my party people. We'll get this to be 2 and 3 over 12. Now we have the same denominator. We're good. We have the same denominator, but what do you notice? What I notice is that, well, if I were to just subtract these, it would be 2 minus 3. Not exactly gonna work out. Now here's what some people do in a panic. What some people do is they'll go ahead and turn this entire thing into a mixed number, or excuse me, an improper fraction, and then turn this into an improper fraction, subtract them, and then you have to turn it all the way back to a mixed number again. It's not necessary, everybody. It is not necessary. Let me show you a little shortcut that you can take. Here's a little shortcut. What you can instead do, instead of turning this entire thing to a mixed number or to an improper fraction, which if you do that, it'll end up being 86 over 12. And then this over here would end up being 27 over 12. And then you have to go ahead, subtract those two, and then you turn it back into a mixed number. It's not necessary at all. I'm going to show you both ways to do this, okay? I'm going to show you both ways. So let me show you the long way first, then I'll show you the shortcut way so that way you can appreciate where it's coming from and then use it later on. So here's the longer way-ish. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn this into a mixed number. 7 times 12 is 84. And then we're going to add this to the top, so get 86. Remember, that's how you turn a mixed number into an improper fraction. Multiply by the denominator, then add it into the numerator. So over here, on the right side, we have ourselves here, okay, 2 times 12, that's going to be 24. Then you add that to the top, 24 plus 3 is 27. Okay, now we're here, let's subtract. 86 minus 27, what's that going to give us? Well, 86 minus 20 is 66. 66 minus 7 is 59. So this would end up being 59 over 12. And then you're going to ask yourself, okay, sounds good. Let's turn this back into a mixed number. now I'm getting tired, right? Because you look at all of your answers, they're all mixed numbers. So we have to turn this into a mixed number. So here, how many times does 12 go into 59? How many times? 12, 24, 36, 48. So 48, 4 times. So this turns into 4. And then 59 minus 48, that's going to be 11. So we have 4 and 11 over 12. And that'll be the answer. 4 and 11 over 12, right over here. But remember, there's a much faster way to do this. Let me show you. Here's the faster way. The faster way is going to be only going partial, only partially turning it from a mixed to an improper. Here's how. Let me go ahead and erase this. Let me take away all of this. Take care of all that. So here we have the original, right? Here we have the original right over here. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure that you see this 7 over here. That is 6 plus 1, right? 7 is 6 plus 1. What if, okay, and remember, the reason that, let me actually take it back to the step where we were here, actually. This is actually much better. So if I come back to this step over here, before we turned it into impropers, just take a look, my party people. Take a look right over here. Notice how, again, 2 minus 3 is going to give you a negative number. You can't do that. But watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to write the 7 over here as 6 plus 1. And what I'm going to do is I'm only going to take the 1 right over here and turn that into the fraction, into the improper. I'm only going to take 1, not the whole 7, just one of those from the 7. Well, how does that work? Well, same deal. You're going to go ahead and take that whole number, multiply by the denominator, so 1 times 12 is 12, then add it back into the numerator. Because you're adding one whole in there. You're putting one whole in there. So 1 times 12, because 12 represents the whole thing, 1 times 12 is 12. Add it back up, it's 14. And so what you end up getting is now 6, and then that extra 1, you put it back into the improper fraction as a 14 over 12. Now look at the beauty of this. Look at the beauty of this. Look at how much easier this becomes. Because now what I'm looking at is this, my party people. 6 minus 2 is 4. 14 over 12 minus 3 over 12. 14 minus 3 is 11 over 12. So notice how we didn't have to do all that work. Didn't have to do all that work. We just had to do a small little detour versus doing this whole thing, right? And so we can reinforce that C is the answer. Now, again, I want to teach you guys all of this. I want to teach you all of this, all of this, all of this. So take a look over here. Now, when you take a look over here, this is going to be pretty interesting because what you have is, well, potentially negatives. Most of my answers are negative. So this should start piquing your interest a little bit because this one's a little tougher. But I can still do it. You can still do it. Here's how. First of all, think about it like this. I got 3 minus 5. You got a small number minus a big number. The answer is going to be negative. It's going to be negative. We've taught you that in our courses and in these videos. And if you haven't watched our video on negative numbers, get on that. Okay? Because here's what's happening. Pretty much what's happening is you're subtracting more than you have. So the answer is going to be negative. But remember that subtracting is literally going to be the same as just taking the difference. That's it. The positive or negative at the end just tells you if you took away too much or you took away a smaller number. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change this to make it easier on myself. I'm going to change it to 5 and 11/12, the beginning number right over here, minus the other one, 3 and 4/5. I'm just going to switch it up that way. I'm just going to switch it up in that way. Why? Because I know that no matter what, I need to make sure it's negative. Make sure you put the negative at the end. That's what subtraction is. Think about it. Look at this. Let's say we have 3 minus 1. That's 2, right? Correct. Now what's 1 minus 3? Well, that's negative 2. So think about it. If you're subtracting more than you have, just do it the other way so you can see it in a better way, but just turn it negative because, again, you flipped it. So you got to make sure it's negative to make sure it's correct. 3 minus 1 is 2. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. So instead of doing 3 minus 5, I'm doing 5 minus 3 here, and I'm just going to keep it negative. This helps you do things a lot faster instead of looking at it and confusing yourself, because right now you're dealing with negatives and you're dealing with a fraction. So who feels comfortable there, right? Not many people. And so that's why we want to take this one step at a time. Let's go ahead and turn it into a negative. And now let's deal with the fractions. So with that said, my party people, here we go. Here we go. We have 5 and 11 over 12, 3 and 4 over 5. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and turn these into the same denominator. We have 12 and we have 5. What do 12 and 5 have in common? What do 12 and 5 have in common? Well, I know that, well, think about it. 12 and 5 don't have a shared factor, so that means that you should just multiply them together. 12, 24, 5 doesn't go into that. 36, 5 doesn't go into that. 48, 5 doesn't go into that. What about 60? Yeah, it does. 5 does go into 60. 5 times 12 is 60. And so here we go. Here we go. We have 5 and 11 over 12. What I'll do is I'll multiply this by 5 over 5. And then we're subtracting. And then we have 3 and 4/5. I'm going to make that 60 as well. And so I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 12. Again, the point of this is to get the same denominator, so that way we can talk about this number or value the right way. So boom, here we go. We're going to turn this here into 5, and then 11 times 5 is 55 over 60. Over here, what we have is the same 3. 4 times 12 is going to be 48. 5 times 12 is going to be 60. Now what do we do? Well, here we go. Notice how your whole number is good. Your numerators are good, because 55 minus 48 is still going to be positive. You're fine. So we're good. What we're going to have here is 5 minus 3 is 2. And then we have 55 over 60 minus 48 over 60, and that's going to be 7 over 60. But don't forget, my party people, remember, what did we say? We reversed the order earlier because we have to make it negative. It was the other way around. It was 3 and 48 over 60 minus the 5 and the other fraction. So this has to be negative. We told ourselves from the beginning, right? We told ourselves from the beginning that we would do that, and there it is, right here. So with that said, my party people, dealing with those negative results is never going to be easy to look at, but we actually have a lot of power here to get this done the right way. We do. Now, let's go ahead and see if we can find some ridiculous ones. Now, again, we have these negatives here, which we can absolutely do, but I think I'll go ahead. Okay, so that's it right there. So what we're going to do here is let's try something like 51. Let's do something like 51, and then we'll call it a day here. Hey, learn more about how you can get all of my classes, all of my practice problems with video solutions, and all of my study guides, practice tests, flashcard sets. Oh, and by the way, the ability to text me whenever you need help. Go ahead and learn about my ASVAB All-Access Program. Click the link in the description here, or shoot me a text at 567-698-8867 to learn more about it. Again, I'm Coach Anderson. Let's learn more, and let's ace the ASVAB. So 51. We're taking a look at 51, and this already looks crazy, right? This is a negative number minus another number. This actually isn't that bad, my party people. It actually isn't. How do I know? Because of this. Well, if you have a positive 2 plus a positive 1, that's going to be a positive 3, correct? Correct. Now, if I have a negative 2 minus a 1, well, they're both negative. If you're combining two negatives, you're just getting more negative. If you combine two positives, you're just getting more positive. Combining two negatives, you get more negative. So 1 plus 2, or 2 plus 1, that's 3. Negative 2 minus 1, that'll be negative 3. What's the point I'm trying to make? The point I'm trying to make is that if you have a negative number and you're subtracting another number, just add them. Add the numbers, but keep it negative. That's the point I'm trying to make here. So that's all I'm going to do. Go ahead and add those numbers or fractions and just keep them negative. That's it. So my job right now is going to be this. Let me get rid of you right over here. The point hopefully has been made. And so what I'm going to do now is this. I'm going to go ahead and write this as 6 and 3 over 4 plus 4.5. And just remind yourself here, negative. Just add them, but then keep the result negative because, again, that's what we're doing here. We're already negative, going more negative. Let's get to work. So what I can tell already from the very beginning is that I can add the 6 and add the 4. That's going to be 10. That's going to be 10. But now what we're dealing with is the 3/4 and the 1/2. So 10 and then whatever this is, whatever 3/4 plus 1/2 is, that's what we're going to have as the answer. So the question now is, do we have the same denominator? No, we don't. Well, can we get the same denominator? Yeah, absolutely. How do I know? Well, because you have a 4 here and a 2 here, 2 can actually go into 4. So what I can do is I can actually just multiply this part here, only this fraction, I can multiply it by 2/2. I can do that because by going 2/2, what I'm going to have now is this same exact thing. Let me just duplicate it. I'm going to have this same exact thing, except it's not going to be 1/2. 1 times 2 is going to be 2. 2 times 2 is going to be 4. Do we have the same denominator now? Yeah, we do. Absolutely. And so 3/4 plus 2/4, that's 5/4. So I have now 10 and 5/4. Are we done? No, because 10 and 5/4, that's a mixed improper fraction. That's not going to make a lot of sense. So what we need to do here is actually pull out a 4 here and put it with the 10. How do I do that? Well, remember, how do you convert from improper to mixed? You divide the numerator by the denominator. You leave the remainder up top, right? Leave the remainder up top, but then take that whole number and put it off to the side. So let me move this over here. And remember this. 5 is divisible by 4 only once, because 5 divided by 4 is 1 with a remainder of 1. So 1 with a remainder of 1. So this turns into, over here, 10 and over here, 1 and 1/4. So 10 and 1 and 1/4, well, 10 and 1 makes 11. And then you still have the 1/4. Boom. And remember earlier what we just said? We said, hey, keep that thing negative. So this is going to be negative 11 and 1/4. And we look at the answer right there. Booyah. I know that was a lot, right? That was definitely a lot, but we need to make sure that at the end of the day, we see this as not something that we should run away from, but something that we should explore and learn and feel confident in how to do. And so with that said, my party people, my math party people, I am Coach Anderson, your math coach as always. I'll see you in the next video where we will be going over multiplying and dividing fractions. But moving up next, practice time now. You're going to practice adding and subtracting fractions, improper fractions, mixed numbers, then go into the speed drill set. That way you can test your abilities out, and then I'll see you when multiplying and dividing fractions. So if you have any questions, let us know. We got your back, but let's go ahead and keep getting smarter. I'll see you soon.